Hulkamania still running wild. I guess he had his funeral and there was Vince. I mean, they said that Vince was there and everything, and he spoke and everything.
Vince cut a promo for Hogan.
That's what they're saying. He was there at the funeral, and he spoke nicely about Hogan and stuff. This is all second and obviously third hand. I was third and fourth and fifth hand because I read a little thing on, was it Facebook maybe? And Facebook never lies, so it must be true. They said a lot of guys were there, a lot of wrestlers. Like this Triple H was there with Stephanie, and maybe DDP was there. Ric Flair was there, of course. There's a long list.
DDP, after all those times, Hogan beat his ass, spray painted
all
him.
All those times, the NWO whooped his ass.
Well, he got famous off of getting his ass whooped by the NWO.
That's right.
Well, you could start giving. Maybe you should start giving your Hogan obituary while we're waiting for Robert. What do you think? Because we're gonna start with the Hogan stuff. What would you say about Hogan, huh?
Well, he is easily one of the most recognized wrestlers of all time. I mean, that goes without saying. I mean, when you think of just like the people of a certain age, when you think of wrestling, that's like not for like the diehards, but like for the people, the casual fans, that just like when you think of pro wrestling, think of a guy like Hulk Hogan. Everybody knows him. He's one of the most recognizable people in the world, honestly.
But he was one of your favorites, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, in the 90s.
Didn't you love seeing him every time he would come out to talk? It would be like must-see TV, man. Like, you got to stop what you're doing. This guy was so full of himself.
Well, I think that's the thing. Like, from the 80s, fans love the Hulkamania stuff, right? That's what they're nostalgic for. But I wasn't really for that, and I wasn't really alive for that. So I can't be nostalgic for what I didn't see live. But when we were young, NWO was the thing. So I kind of always see him as like Hollywood, I see him as Hollywood Hogan, not really Hulk Hogan, I see him with the black and the beard, the dyed beard and everything, and all that stuff, that's what I really think of him. And just that image that I sent you, the gif of him with the belt kind of doing the guitar thing is kind of what I think of Hogan, that's the image in my mind when I think of Hogan. So he brought me a lot of great memories in wrestling. I thought those were great times for a stretch. And he's the most famous wrestler of all time. At least, I think he is. I think he is the most famous. I know, like, whatever now, like The Rock, because whatever, he does all these movies now, but I guess you could say The Rock is now.
The Rock surpassed him because, like, most people from this generation only know The Rock from his movies today. They don't know Hogan. He's pretty old now. Like, younger people, but older people than us, yeah, you're right. They remember him as Hulkamania from the 80s. Like, anyone like 10 years older than us would be thinking of him as...
Well, look, there's two great wrestling booms in the last, 50 years, 40 years. And they were both basically centered around Hogan, Hulkamania in the 80s. I'm not saying wrestling was bad everywhere else, but I mean, when you think of like getting the modern crowd, the hip crowd, the rock and roll crowd of the 80s, you're thinking of Hogan and the whole rock and roll connection that they had there with the WWF. That's what you're thinking about. And I already talked about the 90s. NWO, man, that's what started the wrestling boom in the 90s. If it wasn't for that, we would still be watching hockey players and clowns and people singing and shit like that probably to this day if NWO didn't happen. That's my opinion. I until there was a reason for change, we would have just been getting bad cartoonish wrestling, So
you credit that to Hulk Hogan? That the NWO storyline changed wrestling from being not cartoony to more like serious, actual human combatants.
Well, in a sense, yeah, because they were never. I mean, of all the people that they could put in that leadership role of NWO, he was the one that made the most sense and the only one that would make an impact, like that type of impact, you know? Because we're talking about like the face of all faces, you know? So when he went heel, that was a big deal. But look, I mean, he's obviously, I don't have a full, like, I know Jim Cornette did a full repertoire of his career starting in the 70s, how he got broken in, everything about him in Memphis and Florida and wherever else he's been in the territory.
Yeah, that was the definitive obituary for Hulk Hogan. It was really good.
It broke down his whole career from start to finish. His whole wrestling career from start to finish. I thought it was tremendous. But I can't do that, obviously. I'm not a historian of wrestling. But from what I've seen, just things I know, he's up there. I mean, whether you love him or you hate him, it doesn't matter. He's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. He's easily one of the most important. And he drew the most. I mean, I know it doesn't matter to the fans, I guess, in the sense, like who drew the most money and whatnot. But it's important because money means popularity, meaning you drew enough money for the company and for whatever. That means that the wrestling was huge at that time because of your existence. Because you were there. You highlighted the show. You were there, man. And WrestleMania 3. I mean, what are we talking about? That's one of the greatest moments for any wrestler of any time. You know, that was one of the biggest things. That was a monumental moment, you know, that they could even do WrestleMania 3 and that they had Andre versus Hogan.
My favorite shit from Hogan is when he was Hollywood Hogan and he would just beat the fuck out of people and spray paint their ass and laugh about it. And he was weirdly, I was trying to think about it today because as Hulk Hogan, he wasn't that cool. He was kind of like, you know, the cool people hated him because he was always beating the cool heels and he was just the Hulkamania guy who was for the kids and drink your milk and take your vitamins. It was lame. But when he was Hollywood Hogan, he was really actually kind of cool in a way. Like, I thought he was cool, but I can't explain how I thought he was cool because I thought he was like wrestling cool. I didn't think he was like I wouldn't actually want to go out like Hulk Hogan and get a yellow mustache and act like Hulk Hogan. You know, I didn't think it was like actually cool in our society to be that way. But in some weird way for the wrestling world, Hollywood Hogan was so cool. You know what I mean? I don't know if I can explain that in a way. Scott Hall was cool. Maybe some of that rubbed off on him, the fact that he was hanging out with Hall and Nash.
He was hanging out with Hall and Nash, definitely rubbed off, because those guys are kind of cool. But, I mean, they were cool for sure. But especially Hall. Hall was very smooth. But, yeah, definitely rubbed off on him for sure. And I think just forming that group with those two guys was the key to the whole thing. My favorite, I don't know, just like my favorite thing, just like the whole character of Hollywood Hogan was, I thought, hilarious. Like the facials that he would make when he was scared, the stuff that he did when he was just beating the crap out of people, the spray painting, just like whipping them with his belt. I don't know. It was freaking awesome, man. It was a great time in wrestling. There was a stretch there, as I've talked about, I've talked about it for a while, the stretch with from 96 to 98 where WCW was rocking and rolling. Those were amazing years for wrestling, and specifically for WCW because of the NWO, because of Hogan. So, look, I mean, sure, he had some controversy, whatever he said with the race stuff. Look, I'm not going to talk about all that because,
sure,
I mean, because he had it and it happened. I don't think it's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. So he said that, yeah, whatever, in his weird drunken state, that whatever, he doesn't want his daughter, whatever, black people, whatever. I don't really care about that, dude. Honestly, it's such an insignificant thing compared to what the hell is going. Everybody else has done it in this world. That, like, who gives a shit at this point? I mean, is he the nicest guy? Is he the most whatever guy? Probably not. Is he kind of a weird with the stories that he makes up in these interviews? Yeah, but who cares? I mean, he just wants to feed the Hulk Hogan legend. Let him feed it. Who cares?
Maybe he was like really brain damaged at the end. He was like freaking had dementia from all them shots to the head with the steel chair and everything.
You think those things actually happened in his mind, and he wasn't really making it up. He just thought it happened.
Dude lived a crazy life, dude. Dude was on the road for 300 days a year, for many years. Yeah. They actually worked all those house shows and everything.
I don't really know, and I don't want to guess. I'm not a doctor, but you would think the 80s lifestyle eventually did catch up to him in the 70s. I mean, the steroids, the cocaine, all those guys were doing it in WWF at that time, especially the guys that were really huge and big. So, I mean, that's probably what really ended up like messing with him later in his life, and that's probably why he passed. Most likely. Look, I don't know what he was doing now. I doubt he was still doing the juice in the 70s, but still, you know what I mean? It caught up with him, like you can't live that type of lifestyle for that long and not have it catch up with you when you get older, I mean, if you're lucky enough to get to where you were, when you
one other thing I'll say about Hogan is that I actually like the TNA era of Hogan. I know a lot of hardcore TNA fans think he ruined TNA, which he kind of did, because I did go back. Like, he got me into TNA. I would not have watched ever if it wasn't for him. But then once I watched it, then I went back, found the tapes of the old days, and I'm like, yeah, he did ruin TNA, kind of, but okay. It was still kind of some cool shit in there, There was some cool storylines. He had a match with Sting, but it was unfortunate. I think the most unfortunate thing about his career was how WCW ended and how Hollywood Hogan didn't really get a proper ending, and they made him Hulkamania again, and then WWF kind of just pretended all that didn't happen and brought him back as Hollywood Hogan, and we just kind of went with it because it was like, well, okay, it's the best we could get. That was a little unfortunate because the storytelling, as we will talk about later in today's podcast, in terms of WWE storytelling nowadays and Cena and that whole thing, that whole debacle, which we'll talk about later on. Yes, the storytelling in the late 90s, right at the end when the whole thing fell apart, it was god awful. He turned babyface. He was Hulkamania again for a while. And it was fucking weird. And then WCW just died. So that was a fucked up time. And then he actually had a good run in WWF. A very good run. For like 2 years. Something like that. He fought The Rock. He fought Mr. McMahon at WrestleMania. Those were amazing.
Those were great WrestleMania matches. Still thought of... Well, The Rock match is thought of very highly amongst wrestling fans as one of the great WrestleMania matches of all time, honestly. Just based on the crowd reaction and the psychology behind it, it was a tremendous match. And I think very highly of that match as well. Just having two of the biggest stars of all time, basically having a match. I mean, Hogan and Rock are two of the biggest wrestling stars of all time. So that was a tremendous match. And yes, I know then he had a feud with Vince. And I guess that was pretty much it, right? After that, I don't really know what happened after that. I kind of lost. I don't think I was really watching that quick wrestling at that point. So I know I've seen the match with Vince as like a WrestleMania match, probably on YouTube or way after. I don't think I was watching wrestling live at that point to watch WrestleMania. So it's something I saw probably many years after that.
As I recall, he had like a tag team partnership with Edge. They were baby faces.
Yeah.
It was kind of lame. Edge would do like the Hulkamania thing where he would do the flexing with them and everything.
Yeah.
To the crowd. That part I didn't really like. I didn't really like that part. I liked Mr. America and Mr. McMahon, but I didn't really like the whole Edge period. And then recently, I guess it's been a struggle because he's just been a very divisive person. He couldn't get work at the end. I guess there was a chance, like Ric Flair did go to AEW, at least for a few appearances. Hogan never did, not one time. I guess, I don't know why, they just kind of made him persona non grata even before he had a chance to do anything. I mean, Bischoff was there. Bischoff showed up. They all realized the show sucks, but still, it's a thing to show up there, at least get an appearance. Why not?
But I don't know. I mean, I just want to say, like in retrospect, like is Hogan like what he did with the race stuff? Is it really that bad? Like compared to like the deviants that we have running around this freaking world, you know?
You're saying he's not Jeffrey Epstein. Since he's not Epstein, he's not that bad. He's just a little racist.
Wow, he's definitely not Jeffrey. I mean, he's from a different time. He's obviously he's a little racist. He's a little racist. Sure, I can see that. He's in, when he said that, what he was in the '60s or something. He's a guy that was born when. Let's see.
All right, bud. All right, we got you. We got you.
I'm just saying. It's
we
not
don't
the end of the world.
We don't want.
It wasn't the worst thing of all time. It wasn't one of the worst things I've ever heard. There's been a lot of worse things done, and those people are still mentioned. I mean, you know, Chris Benoit. He didn't kill anyone, for God's sakes. He didn't kill his whole family. He's not Chris Benoit. Right?
Yeah, no. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's a complicated thing at the end. I mean, this is like a recent cultural development, cancel culture. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't used to be a thing, but recently people are like, well, if you find out one of these entertainers did something that you don't like, you should boycott their entertainment. All of a sudden, all their entertainment they've ever done is null and void, even if you've enjoyed it in the past. Like Kanye West. You can't listen to no Kanye West song. It's bad. If you bring it up, like you want to play it on the jukebox at the bar, everyone will be like, what? No. What are you, like a whatever, you know, a Nazi or something? So yeah, I don't know. They decided to cancel Hulk Hogan later in his life because of stuff that he said. Yeah. Well, he's dead now, so he can't be canceled anymore. So now everyone's like, it's always like when they die, they're like, all right, well, now we'll be nice to you. We were fucking shitty to you all the way up until you died, and now.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Dead.
I mean, I think you should have been given a second chance. I mean, I think you have to look at the crime. I mean, the punishment of like banning him for the last what amount of years from the spotlight or from making appearances. I mean, I guess he did make some appearances, though. I guess in WWE. I mean, obviously the last one was not a great one for him. That was, unfortunately, how a lot of wrestling fans will remember his last appearance with the booze and all that stuff.
Oh, man, that was his last appearance. That sucks.
Well, that was his last wrestling appearance in a prominent wrestling show, right? I don't think he was anywhere else. So, yeah, man, I mean, it's sad, but you know, what are you going to do? I think you got to remember the good stuff about him. I look at it from a positive point of view. Yeah, he has some controversy a little bit surrounding him, his politics, whatever have you, his whatever he said on the race. And I guess just that he's kind of makes up weird stories. Those are like the three big things, but we can't hold everything against the guy. I mean, he's brought a lot of joy to a lot of people. He's brought a lot of great wrestling moments. He's easily one of the most recognizable wrestlers of all time. He's one of the great wrestlers of all time. He's one of the most important wrestlers of all time. So, yeah, so there it is. That's my thing on Hogan. I try to think of him in a decent light and positive memories.
All right, well, there's Robert jumping in. The Frozen Asian is here. Hey, Robert. We were while we were waiting and we didn't know if you would come on or not. We started our Hulk Hogan obituaries, so we already did our what he means to us and everything. What do you think? Do you want to say something about Hulk Hogan? Did he mean anything to you? I know you were more of a rock guy.
Well, okay, so honestly, I've never really been a Hogan fan, but that doesn't mean I don't recognize, you know, his importance to the industry and how he affected it, right? Like, without him, I'm pretty sure at some point wrestling would have become mainstream anyways, but I don't think it would have been to the level that it is today. Without him, absolutely not. So, you know,
that's a good point.
A lot of the wrestlers that are wrestling today, They were either inspired by him or were inspired by somebody that was inspired by him. So, he's very, very influential. I would say, I dare say, the most influential wrestler of all time. So, yeah, in that regard, he's probably the most important wrestler in the industry. So, so I do recognize that, even though I've never really been a fan of his. I'm not gonna disrespect his legacy. He was absolutely important. So we did lose an icon.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was listening to a Cornette conversation they were having on his podcast about who it could have been to lead that 80s revival that you were talking about, Vlad. Like, if Hulk Hogan wasn't there, who would have been the main man in WWF to take them to that, and it's like there aren't many options. There isn't anyone that you could have think who could have became like a big star like Hulk Hogan. He took the ball and he ran with it. If it wasn't him, like, who could it have been? Ted DiBiase, or some people said Dusty Rhodes. Maybe Vince would have tried to get Dusty Rhodes and make him like the face of the company, but he was more like wanting someone who looked the part. Although Dusty could talk, but yeah, I guess and Vlad said, Robert, before you showed up, that he led both wrestling booms, like the biggest wrestling booms of the past 50 years, the 80s and then the late 90s, that they were both centered around Hulk Hogan.
Yeah,
the NWO, absolutely. And so that's pretty important. That's pretty impressive. And the thing I was saying, Robert, because you were saying you were never really a fan. Like, I was a fan. I think he was so cool as Hollywood Hogan when he would, like, he was weirdly cool. I was trying to explain how, like, I wouldn't want to be like him. Like, I wouldn't want to walk around, like, with the beard and the black face paint. I wouldn't try to act like Hulk Hogan in real life, but for some reason in the show, he was a really cool. Yeah, the bandana. In the show, like, in the wrestling world, he was like a really cool character. So, yeah, sad to hear him pass. But although I think 71 is probably that's a good age. If I get to 71, I'll be satisfied. I'll be like, it's a little young. It's a little young, but
for today's age, it's a little young. Yeah.
For him, like, he was, probably doing steroids and all that shit. So shit. Well, yeah, I think he long lived past his expiration date, if you ask me. And he looked pretty good. He went down looking basically like he always looked.
Yeah, but more importantly, it's the legacy he left behind. Like, where wrestling is at right now, how far it's grown, it was because of him, right? Would this podcast exist without him? Right? I mean, it affected all three of our lives where we
That's a good point.
Watched a lot of wrestling growing up. We're still talking about it now. So
yeah. And we reviewed a lot of Hulk Hogan segments so far, and we're going to review probably a lot more Hulk Hogan segments in the future as we go through old, WCW and WWF tapes. So, yeah, he'll be part of this. He should be in the Malapert Smark Hall of Fame, even already, for just like you guys are. By